or even private, but a private viewing is different than a public viewing. So this was a public viewing. So it was on exhibition. That's what that means.
Okay.
But you don't have to answer questions like that. You just speak colloquially. You know what that means? Like you're just speaking off, you're incorporating these words, these questions, but not speaking to them directly or specifically. You're not saying this and then giving the answer. You're going to give the answer that includes that within the answer.
I see that.
Okay, so you would say, I really enjoyed this exhibition. I met Aisha and Renee the last time we exhibited in Olympia, that sort of thing. So you're qualifying the answer with where you already exhibited. If it comes up, it may not need to come up.
Right.
But if it does come up, then you know how to answer.
Right.
I love
Yeah.
it. I really do.
I have your back.
I know you do.
I'll prompt you. Yeah, wasn't it that time that you showed at, when Aisha introduced us?
Right.
Do you remember that magical moment? And you said, oh, yes, that was really a wonderful time. Okay?
I got you.
You got the earrings and the hair working.
Just go from there.
All put together.
No. This is, you see, suggestions. These are if you need prompts and if you need to be guided. But if I'm sitting next to you and I'm your mentee and the mentor, you won't have to worry about that. Because I can always say, well, how did you feel about this one? Yeah. So this is just, so we have some understanding of what might be coming our way. Okay. Did you turn off your phone?
I see. Well, it's on silent.
I put mine on silent.
Yeah.
What's number one? That's yours. No. Number two is mine.
I'll be right back.
Okay.
Why did you choose to work with a mentee or mentor? Number two. Are you touching with your Yeah. Number two is one. Well, they're like together. You separate on the two. Yeah, so
I'm sorry? Oh, yes.
Okay, all right. So I need my glasses. They're on my head. Thank you. So welcome to the Leonor R. Fuller Gallery at the Kenneth J. Menard Center for the Arts. And this is the artist talk for the exhibition Black Love, Community Building Through Mentorship. And before we begin, I would just like to acknowledge that South Puget Sound Community College is located on the ancestral ends of the Stachos Band of the Squaxin Island Tribe and Nisqually Indian Tribe, who have long been stewards of the region's waters, plants, and animals. The southernmost point of the Salish Sea, these lands were, and still are, a place of gathering, trade, and community for many Coast Salish peoples. We recognize that all who are not Salish peoples are visitors here. We commit to join these peoples to share their history, build relationships, increase representation, and restore the living world around us. So welcome, everybody. I'd like to say a special thank you to the SPSEC Foundation and all of our donors, Leonor R. Fuller, the Board of Trustees, the Gallery Committee, and most especially all of our incredibly hardworking artists. And so I'd like to introduce Parfait Basale, and he's going to say just a few words on behalf of the college. Here we go.
Thank you, Sean. Can y'all hear me okay? Just like Sean said, welcome to this evening. Thank you for the opportunity to be here. Thank you to our incredible artists being here. My name is Parfait Basale. I am the Executive Diversity Officer here at the college. And it's just really exciting for me when I see projects, initiatives like this. And I want to take this opportunity to thank you for the community that you've built through this work. This notion of, through the arts, working together to build community and build and support the next generation, that mentorship. It's so huge, and our world is needing that type of community work. And when we look at the news around us, right, it's not very rosy. And I deeply believe that the arts are going to be part of the solution. We need a heart of artists. And you are you have displayed that for us, for the community. And I do believe that, and some of you are aware of this, there's this initiative in our Olympia community that hopefully, if it passes, will help further this type of work in providing opportunities to bring the community together, to leverage the arts for greater education, greater connection among all of us. It's the Inspire Olympia initiative, and I'm really excited about the prospect of that. But in the meantime, I'm just going to leave the floor to hear from you all and learn from what your experiences have been doing this work together and learning from each other. So thank you again for your beautiful art and this community work that you're doing for us.
So, okay, I'm going to sit down now. So just as an introduction to this exhibition, this is a third exhibition that was started, that grew from the first exhibition called Futures Rising. And there may be more said about this as we talk, but these artists are here because of Mama T. Mama T's over here. The exhibition started with a group of artists. I just want to list everybody's names from that first exhibition because I think that's important. The Futures Rising exhibition featured artists Sandra Boces, Javon Bird, Blackwell Red Thread, that includes Shamika Gagne, Coley Gladney, and Aisha Harrison, Travis Johnson, Sun Jordan, Miss Gay, Ryan Parker, Renee Westbrook, Tagasu, and David Yost. And this was just a partial list, mind you, of artists that T had connected with. Like, you went places and found all of these artists in different areas around Olympia, at markets, showing in local restaurants and cafes, right? And like, you went there and gathered these people together, and that's really cool, because that's hard work, and it's important, and so from that, then there was another exhibition that came about called Closer, and the gallery committee and I invited the artists from Futures Rising to submit portfolios for exhibition. And so 3 artists came together for that exhibition, and that was Renee Westbrook, Sandra Boces, and Travis Johnson. And so in the spirit of those 2 exhibitions, we decided to put together a mentor show to find a way to deepen the connection that these artists have formed, and expand the community. And so we all got together and had a conversation about what this would look like, and what you see in the gallery and seated before you is what that looks like. And so for this exhibition, the artists that are showing here are, just so I don't miss anybody, talking in front of people and cameras. But the artists that we have exhibiting today are Sandra Boces, and Sandra is third down there. You can kind of raise your hands when we talk about you. And Sandra was a mentor to Ruya Lamont. Ruya, apologies. And then Coley Gladney, also a mentor, and a mentor to Deja Marshall, who couldn't be here with us tonight. And then Aisha Harrison, who was mentor to Teresa Yost, Mama T. And Travis Johnson, who was mentor to Kyle Bradford. And Renee Westbrook, who was mentor to Kari Naja Davis. So at this point, I'm going to hand it over to you guys, and I'm going to allow these artists to introduce themselves and talk about the experience that they had through this mentorship.
Thank you so much, Sean. It's a privilege to be here. It's an honor to be able to put work in the community. And I want to take just a moment to just give Mama T her flowers every opportunity I get. She is our elder, functioning as, that word isn't pretty enough or big enough, functioning as like holding up the tent as it's been described for us to do work under. And so she's holding the tent and we're all working under that. And I want to make sure that we give her honor and flowers while she's here with us in front of everybody else. That's important. So she is our elder. And I'm honored to be a part and share this journey with you. Yes. So I had the lovely privilege of partnering and working with this young man who I have a very unique connection to. I knew his father when his father was maybe younger than you are now. I know I don't look that old, but you know, I was there. I was a little bit younger. So I had several people that I was interested in trying to invite to this show, and there was one person that was local, and then there was another person in Seattle, and then he posted on his Instagram story, he had a picture of paint, and he said, I want to get back into oils. And I was like, dude, you want to do a show? And he was like, yes. I was like, cool. And so that's how that started. And I would love for you to be able to share how it was for you, and then I maybe jump back in at the end and tell kind of what I'm seeing in your work. But that would be really cool if you're up to that. All right,
So what I thought was really cool just with this entire experience was through your mentorship, it was really just kind of getting me to open up and experiment more with the paint and just letting paint do what it does. And I think for me, when I said, hey, I want to get back into oils, that was after I saw your show in Seattle. And that was after I saw the show in Seattle. And I just kind of felt a little bit spark of, I need to get back into this. It had been about 10 years since I had done any real substantial painting. And so, yeah, that's kind of when I put my stuff out there. And then after that, I've honestly been painting since.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think what's really beautiful that I'm seeing in your work that I wanted to note for you guys, that if you haven't seen the show, once you go see it, and those that have already seen it, to maybe even go back and relook at what he was doing in his paintings. And a lot of our conversations in the beginning were about identity, and we were looking at, I believe it was the Egyptian
Book of Dead.
Yeah, Book of the Dead, and looking at those motifs and that iconography, and really, I think we were able to kind of distill a duality. That a duality kept coming up, the tension of holding two things at once. There they are, beautiful. So, yeah, it's different when it's that big. So, one thing that with this painting in particular, this duality of being two things at the same time. So, it's all red. They're all red, but they're two different shades of red, and Kyle was able to create one of his, I think, did you create all of your reds or just one?
Actually, all of them except
Okay.
for one.
So he created his reds, and so you have these red paintings, and two things that are really working is this duality of red, two different shades of red in the same painting, creating this tension in this abstract way to bring forth this narrative of the dualities that we were talking about. And so there's this real sophistication, intellectual sophistication, and artistic expression and freedom that he's really working with. And seeing him get to that point was impressive. I haven't seen anybody that quickly get to this point from where we started. And I think it helped to have the foundation that he had, and then the decade of space of not creating and then coming back to it. And so I would encourage everybody to go back and revisit these. And then he accomplished making a red painting interesting. And I think what really helps is that he created his own red color. Most people go to that really cherry red, and then they put a gold leaf next to it, and the painting's just terrible. And then you're right? And then they add white to it, and then there we are, and it's just a titanium white, and then it's just too sterile, and it just looks like a candy shop. But that's not what happened here. So it's, sorry, that's the Summer of Art School. So I'm very impressed with these paintings, and I can't wait. I told him last night till I see 200 more. That sounds like a big number, but it'll be really interesting to see where he gets from that point. So. Oh, see that one for you.
Yes, good evening. That's beautiful. Your work's beautiful. I'm Mama T, or T, whichever you prefer, and I'm very lucky to have participated in this event. I'm also very lucky that my mentor was the very, very, very talented Aisha Harrison, and she put up with a lot because I'm hard to work with sometimes. But I found this to be really rewarding, to be very rewarding. And one thing that Aisha did that I loved so much was she never said no. Everything I wanted to try, she'd say, well, let's see. She never said, no, don't do that. The only time she said no was when I tried to get her to do all the work for me. She said no then. But I am a fledgling wordsmith, and so my art's words. And we incorporated some of our words into some of the pieces that we did. But I'm not quite sure where I'm going to go after this. I kind of like collecting beautiful people and putting them together. You know, I love the art, absolutely love the art. And these are some beautiful people, they really are. Their art speaks for itself. So I'm not sure where I'm going next, but I'm having fun figuring it out.
My name is Aisha Harrison, and I'm not sure. Our mentee-mentor relationship was a little, you know, I don't know, non-traditional or perhaps traditional. You know, there's a lot of give and take, I think, in relationship when you have a real relationship. And so that feels like where we were. And I ended up making a piece about or of Mama T. So it is sort of a collaboration. It was a collaboration. I mean, I had to figure out what piece, you know, wanted to be made, what she wanted, what I felt like I could make, and then we also talked a lot during our meetings. We laughed a lot also, I must say. I think we laughed maybe more than we talked. But yeah, so we did, there were like parts of the work that I helped with, and then she helped me sort of figure out this piece of her. So that's kind of our collaboration. You want to talk more? Oh, now you're gonna, oh, I see.
She helps a lot. I'm right-handed, but I'm impaired. I lost the use of my right side, and so I'm having to learn to do everything with my left hand. And it's an interesting journey. So Aisha filled in where I needed. I very much appreciate her for that.
I also want to encourage you, Mama T, to keep painting, because I know it's there's a lot more that needs to come through in that realm, and I gave you some big canvases, so you better use them. Okay.
Hi, everybody. My name is Coley Gladney, and I'm really grateful to be in the good company of these wonderful artists, and thank you, Mama T, as well, for bringing us together. And I want to say I have a lot of family watching from home, and I love you, and thank you for your support. And my mentee is Deja Marshall. She couldn't be here tonight. And I guess what I want to say about our collaboration, I first met Deja when she was a student at Evergreen, and I'm a staff member there. And Deja is a wonderful, incredible photographer, and she's also an amazing designer of all things. So I'm really inspired by just her sense of space, and her life is artful. And I really, although I'm her mentor in this context, I really felt like I learned so much from her, and it was a good exchange. It was a really good exchange. And I think we were really both exploring similar themes. We talked a lot about self-love. We talked a lot about affirmations, a sense of worthiness in ourselves. We talked about the way the world views us as Black women. And I think, I won't speak for Deja's art, but I would rather have her do that for you, but I think what she created was the embodiment of what we talked about in both creating a world for yourself that is full of good things, full of, one word that came up a lot when we were talking for her was opulence, creating this beautiful, wonderful world around yourself, and the power that we have to do that. So that's all I'll say for now.
Hello, my name is Sandra Boces, and I am the mentor of Ruya Lamont. First of all, I want to thank Mama T for finding me in Olympia so many years ago and giving me the opportunity to be here tonight. When the subject came up about mentoring, I got very excited because I love new things, and I love the excitement of discovering something new about myself. So I had to mentor this young lady. First of all, I met her when she was 13, 3 years ago, and that in itself is exciting. She is very passionate about what she does, and I just wanted to look after someone and kind of guide them along in their own way. I allowed her to be herself, and I just found her to be such a futuristic person. And as two women of color, I was so proud of her in the way she carried herself. And I just saw her in the future, in the art world, doing great things. And she just held my attention. So with her mom's permission, we got together, and our art is quite similar, actually. So that in itself was not a challenge, but was a great insight into the mind of two women of color, or just two women. Anyway, you want to say?
Okay, yeah. All right. Hi, my name is Ruya Lamont. It was really fun, actually. You're reminding me. Oh, right. Sorry. When I first met Sandra, I was just wandering around the farmer's market, because my mom was getting our vegetable CSA, and I was like, let me assert my independence. So I went walking around, and then I saw Sandra, and I was like, there's another black person here? Oh, cool. All right, I'm going to go talk to them. So, that was my thought process. And then I was like, oh, hot sauce. Oh, she's from Trinidad. My mom talks about that all the time. Okay, let's go. And then I ran back, and I told my mom, I was like, look, she looks like me. We have to go. It's important. And so that kind of started our relationship. And then at Evergreen, we had an art show together. And I was excited to see her again because I was like, ooh, this is an art setting, and our art's right next to each other, and that's super cool. So I was really grateful to have this opportunity and to be able to learn from you and stuff like that. So yeah.
I just want to say one thing that I find really important is that when she said, oh, I found someone that looks like me, we need to see people that look like us in order to give us the space in our minds to achieve something, to achieve that thing. We need to see that mirror. So this exhibition is so, so important, and grateful for that. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Renee Westbrook, and Aisha, with whom I have great respect for, brought me over when she and Kari were exhibiting in Olympia, and I met him, and I thought, wow, this is an interesting young man. And when it came to pass that we would be in a show that we would then mentor someone else, it was very interesting for me because I had been shepherded greatly by many black artists in Boston and New York and California. And it just made all the difference in the world to have a community of artists, because I was younger. This is 40 years ago. I was always sort of the young Turk who, the little squeaky wheel, as you all know, speaking up. I too want to be part of this. And they shepherded me and mentored me. So when it came time for me to work with Kari, I found myself to be extremely well prepared to give him not black love, but tough love. And I thought, well, this is great because he's a young man who's hungry and ready and willing. And how profound it is to see in oneself someone 40 years later who has the same thirst and hunger, but who's still a newbie, you know, and yet he is wise in how he chooses his colors and the content. And I was just very happy to be able to do a tete-a-tete, you know, the meeting of the minds. And his work, as you can see, is advanced for someone he thinks of himself as still starting out. And indeed he is on some level, but as you can see, there's a sophistication in how he moves with the color and the dynamics and placement of form and space. And I was very impressed and happy to, you know, nudge him along and, you know, give him what I thought was a righteous sense of, if you're going to do this, you have to go for it 100%. And
Thank you. Thank you, thank you. I appreciate you so much. Everything is everything. So I want to give thanks to the ancestral realm first before I talk. I want to give thanks to the gods and goddesses. And I want to give thanks for the family and friends that are my loved ones. This is a blessing to you be in this space, you know, with so many great, intelligent, amazing, creative artists, you know. God especially thanks to Aisha because she is like the seed, you know. She planted the seed in me, and she seen the vision before I even seen it. I wasn't really, you know, established as what I wanted to do, you know, with art. But she seen my potential. So it started with Seed to Stars, that show. And that's how I met Renee. And before I met Renee, I actually had a dream about Renee. Yeah. Not that type of dream, you know what I mean? But it was a dream that I was gonna meet an elder. And I knew elders, an elder is very important, especially for youth, you know. So when I seen Renee, I was like, deja vu, like this is happening, you know. So everything is, you know, divine time. Origami, yeah. So I had to give thanks for that. And the art, she challenged me. Like, I was going through a lot, but what healing is not beautiful. It's like, you know, it's going through things, but when you get to that point, it's transformation. When you're working out, it's painful, but you're getting stronger. You know, when you're cleansing yourself, you're going through a lot with your stomach or sickness. But when you clean that out, it's beautiful. So that's how she was. You know, she was very challenging. She has a lot of experience, so it makes sense where she comes from. But I needed that push. I needed people to push me, you know, to see, you know, to bring my work out to the, you know, the fullest. So I had to give thanks for you for that. But yeah, I had to give thanks for all.
okay, yes. I would like to just add an addendum to that, is Kari rose to the occasion during a very difficult time in his life at this point, moving and trying to stay present with the work. And one of the things that we know as artists is you must rise to that occasion. You mustn't let life stand in the way of your vision and the power to dream the dream. And of all the things he showed me during our mentorship was not just the work, but the desire to not stop in the face of any and everything that came his way. And my job was to cheer him on with truth and clarity so that when he faltered in his own mind, it was an illusion. He could still go forward. And he understood that. And for a young person who's just really starting out, that's an amazing, like this young lady here, it's an amazing gift to people like us who've been there, done that. But guess what? We can still learn from it.
Yep, keep it down.
Oh.
Okay, good, this is on. So I have just a question from the list here that I'm curious about, and some other people might be too, and then I'll open it up to questions from the gallery if you all have any questions for folks. But I was just curious, did any of you share a space through this process, or did you all work from a distance? And what was that like, communicating about art, like verbally or over Zoom? I mean, can you talk about that a little bit? Like, just getting into the, like, sharing a space, distance or close.
She called. When I called, she always came. And at least 1 or 2 times a week, she came to my house.
When you called, she came?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Always. She was never too busy. So we did share a space, and we did not work over Zoom. I don't care for Zoom very much. It's so impersonal. But Aisha was so good. She did so much to help me. But she did. She was present 100% of the time.
Anybody else?
Oh, wait, sorry, I can go. We communicated through Instagram, actually, which is funny enough. Modern technology. Anyway, because you were in Germany for part of the time, so there wasn't really a place for us to meet up, but we came up with like at least a theme or like a concept for what we wanted to do. It was like, what does self-love look like? What does like the divine black feminine, like, what does divine black femininity look like? And like, how can we portray that? Because for a long time, like, people have defeminized, that's a word, black women and the black body, and like hypersexualized it. So we wanted to show our appreciation for how far we've come and where we're going. That makes sense. So, yeah.
As I had already mentioned before, Kari was no longer in Olympia, so we texted a great deal. And there was one time we kind of hit a wall. He was very concerned about moving and getting work done in time. And I felt a need to try and help him solve that problem. So I started saying to him, well, what do you have already? And then he said, oh, I know, I will continue to work on the piece that I've started. And I thought, well, there you go, there you have that issue. And I'm all puffed up thinking, oh, I solved his problem. But the truth was that I had the exact same problem because I hadn't begun to solve my problem of being prepared, being ready, because I had this grand idea of this big work, as I told you. I even submitted and I had to take it back. But what happened was, because I solved his problem in my mind, he helped me solve mine. And we talked about how grand that was, because I submitted work that I had just completed that hadn't had the debut in Olympia yet. And he was having the same issue. And it was pretty grand to be able to do the quid pro quo. I helped him and he helped me. And I thought, wow, this is a match made in heaven. I'm so glad you dreamt about me, dear. Because this is how it works when you're in sync with another person on this level. There are not many people you can do this kind of tightrope walk with and come to resolution pretty quickly. Do you want to add?
Well, I agree with Renee. Yes. I had started my pieces even before the show was named. You're always working on something. And when the name came, I thought, oh my God, I've already started. I called my pieces Colored Girls. And I started to play with this title in my mind for a while, thinking that, oh my God, it's supposed to be a derogatory term, but I don't think of it like that. I think of it as actually beautiful. So all this color, and yes, we are colorful, and how great is that? And then when I saw Ru's work, and it was like exactly the same, it was like, oh my God, this is really a match made in heaven, and we were already on the same path. So it's the same kind of thing.
I will say with the dynamic in which we worked, we did get to have a session in person, and then we did a lot of Instagram. So that technology, it helps out. But what was cool is when I started out, it was a lot of me trying to paint pretty. And then I had a one-on-one session with you. It was me, a friend of mine from work. And he, just literally on the fly, just made a painting far better than what I could do. But he was showing me, from his perspective, just the freedom in painting. And I think what was really cool about the Instagram is that we were able to FaceTime, and then I was able to watch him paint from his perspective and kind of see what he was doing and the methodology. And that really helped me open up with what I was doing. So yeah, Instagram, it's addictive, it's amazing.
Yeah, that was trying to figure out just logistics and getting in the same space or finding time, and he was able to make it down for the kind of impromptu session. And it really was, what I was amazed with, and I've had this experience once before, was doing kind of an exercise or a tutorial and then seeing someone grasp it, go back to their creative space and execute it flawlessly. And then Kyle took it and locked into his own thing and had his own voice so quickly. It's kind of scary, but it's beautiful to watch. And so we did once I realized after the live session that we did together and then seeing what he showed me, I knew we could just do Zoom sessions and we would be good. So it was beautiful, and it's beautiful to hear how everybody did their version of collaboration with physical space.
Yeah, these are all great stories. I mean, just navigating distance and, Coley.
Yeah, I'd love to share if that's
Yeah,
okay.
hi, Coley.
Deja and I did a lot of phone calls, texts. There was even a Pinterest board in there. And I think I love hearing Kari and Renee talk about the difficulties in the process, because to keep it real, we both, I think, struggled a lot with just the production and figuring out. I had done one painting, but figuring out what we wanted it to be. And we both really took the theme to heart, and we wanted to create something that was not only beautiful, we were both working with kind of this idea of beauty and love, but also something that represented what we're struggling with. And I think we were both successful, but it was really hard to decide. I did so much experimenting. She did so much experimenting. And there were times where we were like, are we gonna finish? What do we do, And so I just wanted to say, she was such a good companion for me through that, because we were both in the struggle together.
I'm gonna go ahead and add something. Renee did not hold my hand through this process. She didn't hold my hand. She was like, I'm gonna leave you alone, and you do what you do, and you're gonna figure it out. And that's what's going, that's what happened. She would tell you though if she don't like something. She was like, I don't think you should go with that. Keep going. Stronger, right? Yeah, you definitely made me stronger. Yeah. And what was really satisfying though was so first she was like, keep going. I was like, all right, keep going. Second time took a picture. She was like, yeah, you should keep going. I was like, all right, I'll keep going. And then that last one, she was like, good. She was like, that's it, yes. I was like, whew, let's go. It was 2 days before he put the art up. I was like, and then I had to figure out the whole frame, and the frame didn't work out, and, Sean helped us out, so everything works out. You just trust your intuition and you trust the people around you. But I definitely get thanks for Renee because she definitely was like tough on me, and I needed that. I didn't need someone to sugarcoat it like that's good, because a lot of people do say that about art. That's good, because they probably don't do art or they don't really want to tell you the criticism, because a lot of people can't take criticism, but I love criticism. So, yeah.
Yeah, I want to set that record straight. I wasn't mean and ugly, but I I definitely believe that what I said earlier, tough love, is that if he takes himself seriously, in my thinking, then he's not going to want the shortcut. And I'm not going to give him the luxury of having the out, because then that's not helping him. And we talked about that. We talked about my role isn't to criticize your work one way or the other through my lens, but to give you the opportunity to discover your own eyes, to be able to see through your own lenses. There's a difference between looking and seeing. And I felt he could discern for himself the difference. So when he looked at his work, he could see the strength in it and he could see the weakness. If I gave him the strength and the weakness, he's looking through my eyes and not his own. And I felt that that was a disservice to someone I believed had within him the possibility of vision as an artist. And even as nascent as he thinks he is as an artist, he still has a wealth of sophistication that needed to be nurtured and allowed to flourish. And I'm so grateful that he let me be honorary in it, because I was very adamant, I'm not gonna hold your hand, that's not my job. And if you don't wanna do the work, then that's on you, right? And he was like, yes, ma'am, and it made the difference, because you can see in his work that he rose to the occasion. And that's what art is about. It's not about someone telling you what to do in your vision. It's how you get to it. I had a classical training. I was classically trained in Boston, and they were very, very hard on me, and I cried a lot. But 38 years later, I'm a much better artist, and I'm a much better person, and I'm a much better teacher. And it was a gift. You were a gift, because I learned how to balance my, the toughness with the love. Like I said, it wasn't black, it was more than black love is the name of the show. It was, if I love you, then I'm gonna let you grow without my say-so. So be it.
Ashe.
Mama T, that comes from Mama T. She let us grow without the say-so, and that's important. So be it.
So does anyone have any questions from the audience? I can kind of, well, we'll just do it this way. I was going to repeat the questions, but I'll let you all have the mics. And please leave your masks on while you.
Okay, thank you guys. With having some mentees and mentors in the room, I'm really curious, and Travis, I'm going to direct this towards you because I know you're in a graduate school program right now. Would you recommend to any of these younger people to find a mentor or go to graduate school, and has graduate school really helped you a lot in your development as an artist?
For me, it was great. I don't know if Michael could. For me, graduate school, this particular program is really good. But I would recommend, for recording, yeah, sorry. For the interwebs. So I would recommend, I would recommend getting a mentor for any young artist. I think that's very effective, because grad school is a lot of money in politics, and certain programs are just straight up evil, plain and simple, and certain straight up. You'll get raw from me. So I would, and it's almost it's a luck of the draw to find a program that's really good. So, but I think if you get with the right mentor, it's the same thing. You'll get to the same place. And the older, the more mature the artist, the better, because you'll get that life experience. Yeah.
You don't have to be that old.
Any other questions? Yep, Lynette.
So you guys have kind of created this great community with, can you hear me? Sorry. You guys have created these great relationships with each other. How much of that do you think will extend beyond what you have here? And do you have plans to take that further, or that was kind of...
Well, I would like to say that the moment I heard the term, mentorship, building community through mentorship, that excited me a lot, because it was more than the art that we are doing. We're actually contributing to our community that's going to be there forever. Like now, I mean, this is our third exhibition. I can't even think of us not being here. So it's just now really in my mind as like it has always been this way. So I don't know if I've answered your question, but we're here to stay. Yeah. Anybody else?
I think that, I mean, you're kind of like my family now, so you're not going anywhere. I didn't mean to say that in a forceful way. But, like, I think from the second, like, that I met Sandra in the farmer's market, I was like, she's going to change my life for the better. This is going to be the beginning, like, of a long, like, amazing relationship. And, like, I'm really glad that we've gotten to this point, and I'm excited to see where we're going to go.
Ditto, ditto.
I feel so lucky to be in a relationship with all of you and meeting some new people. That's just really nice, and more than nice, actually. And getting to spend time with Mama T has been so it's a very meaningful relationship. So that's going to continue, I know. And also, you know, just like I'm part of a collective, and I don't know, it's just it feels like the collective, it's not, maybe not just that collective, but it feels like we have this like group now, thanks to Mama T, and so that feels, and we're like, you know, we're like spinning around adding people, and that's nice. So it doesn't feel like this is it, you know. It definitely feels like we all walk in and we're like, hi, and we're giving hugs and everything with the masks on. So, you know, I don't think this is it for sure. It feels very like expansive rather than complete, I would say.
For me, I've taught for many years, so I've had lots of opportunities to mingle with people who are slightly younger than me, and I would say that this is a very powerful exchange, especially since it's people who have dedicated themselves to the creative process. And up until Mama T, I've lived in this town for 20 years, and I never met anybody like, I met Aisha once when I saw her artwork, and I thought, wow, there's somebody else in this town who does classical sculpture, you know, or figurative sculpture. And that was even 15 years ago, right? So I was very used to this construct of having like-minded people, because, you know, I grew up in New York and trained in Boston and then lived in California, and it was a constant for me to have this. And when I moved here, I did not have this. And I would say to Mama T, all praise to Allah, you know, or whomever, because to have you as the linchpin to this group has been a godsend. And I don't know where he is, but I would love that sculpture
that Aisha did of Mama T to be seen in this moment, because that sculpture is the flowering that this collective now is centered on. And Aisha has brought to the fore the symbol of what the collective is right now. And I would rather she speak more about it, but to me, when I saw it, when we came in, I was so thrilled because not only symbolically what it was, in that it was sculpture by someone I totally admire in terms of the work, because she does the work, there's no getting around that. But I felt that it was of Mama T, and what a fitting tribute to Mama T, who just recently, was infirmed in a way that to see her today vibrant and alive with the rest of us being honored as she should be is very powerful. So we have our elders with us, and this young man and this young woman and this young man here, he has a legacy. There's a legacy for them right now. And so if you could talk more about that, if you like.
Yeah, so that's my sculpture of Mama T, and Mama T is the first of, I'm hoping, many sculptures of Black women and trans folks and non-binary people, and also people of color, women, and Black people. Anyway, so yeah, I have plans. I made plans in my mind that I was going to do this project, this big project, and I would really love for them to be in bronze. And so that was sort of my cut, because I just finished that sculpture down on the boardwalk, a woman with graves at her back, and to get that money to make that piece, it took a couple of years to raise the money through a GoFundMe. And so I have this big other project that's going to be even more money, right? Lots more money. So I was sort of hedging, oh gosh, I don't know how I'm going to do it. And then I let go of the bronze part, and then I was like, okay, well, if it's clay, I can totally do clay. Clay is pretty cheap, especially compared to bronze. So I was like, okay, if I just start in clay and down the road, if they turn into bronze, fantastic, and I can go back and turn these into bronze, and that'd be great. But I got to start this project. I can't just sit on it. And then Mama T, we were at this meeting, and she's like, so I have a question. Do you think maybe you could be my mentor? And I was like, what? Me? Your mentor? What are you talking about? But I had already been thinking about asking Mama T if she'd be willing to sit for me. So it just sort of turned into this cool thing where she asked me to be a mentor, which was mind-blowing. And then, I asked if she would sit for me. And so it was kind of this sweet thing. So, yeah.
I will continue seeking and searching and bringing together, because that's what I do.
I wanted to just thank all of you for what you're sharing with us tonight. It's very moving for me, because I think as artists, we're always searching for our community, whatever place we're living in, wherever we're trying to do the work that we've been called to do. So it's really an honor for me to be here with you, to listen to what you have to share with us, and really just to be impacted. You're impacting my life, and I want to thank you for that. And I can see that you have found one another, and I can see how important that is to each and every one of you. So I was wondering if there's any thoughts that you can share with us as to how we can continue to support you in what it is that you're doing, the vision that you have, and how you can enrich our community.
Travis. Travis and I were dreaming at the opening about projects and what if we had all the funding in the world? What would we do? And we're always dreaming about, thinking about the barriers, but also thinking about the connections that we've made. So thanks for the question. Do you want to share?
Sure. Right, here we go. All right, so how much time do we have? No, I have some thoughts, so I'll be gentle, because I can be very harsh, so I'm going to be gentle. Shoot, this might not be gentle, sorry. So when we're putting art in a white-controlled space on stolen land, right? So, and so there's this, and you're talking about generations of conditioning to perform and present something in white spaces. We're all specialists at that. So I envision what would it look like if we did it in a space that wasn't a white-controlled space and there was a budget, like $500,000 per artist. I'm gonna let that sink in. $500,000 per artist, and you give them a year, because this was done with no budget. This was done with miracle work and people moving from this side of the country to that side to present this art here, and there's no price at the door that we got to pay to read. It's just done. So what would that look like if it's funded? Now those numbers seem crazy and big, but that's done every day. Every day. There's artists that, I don't want to pick on anyone and call out their name, but there's artists out there, if you look at their net worth, you'll see things like 500 million. And it's like, wait, what? They were funded. They were funded. So funding is really important. Now this is a community college, and so there's a way of doing things and there's a set budget, but that's what it would take, is buying people's art, supporting them. That's like an actual thing that I think that you can do, because I think all of us are working artists. Even if we have other jobs, we're working, seriously after this art practice. So this is, I think I'll pause right there, but that's a start. But that's a heavy question that I appreciate you giving me space to have the courage to say it. Yeah.
And I'll follow that up. I'll follow that up by saying that we in our collective have been talking about trying to start a fund for Black artists in the Olympia area, but think about it, we are the Black artists wanting to start a fund for Black artists. We're like, what should we do with the money we've made so far? Let's give it to Black artists. And so, wonderful, but also, that doesn't feel quite right? I mean, who are other artists funded by? So I just want to say thank you, Travis, for always keeping it real. And, no disrespect. This show has been amazing. I want to thank, actually, Sean for curating and just listening to what the artists want and bringing us together. I really appreciate that.
I feel like we're in a different age where information is, easy to get to. And now we're understanding ownership, and we understand sovereignty a little bit better. And I feel like that's where that just this new age is going towards. Because we're starting to learn how to own our businesses, how to own our artwork, and actually read contracts. You know, contracts is, I feel like some artists were so quick to just get the money, but it was more, later on they realized they don't even own their music or their art, or, you know, they had to give a pay cut, you know, to people even after they pass. So I feel like we should learn more as Black people or melanin dominant people to learn more about trust, you know, building a trust and building a legacy. And it's not even about like a whole bunch of money, but little money goes a long ways, you know, especially, you know, 5, 10 people that could put in a little bit of money. Each person knows 5, 10 people, and that's going to keep adding over and over time. But if we establish a trust, and then everything where your art goes, that trust will always, we all be able to benefit off that, you know, as we go, and then maybe that can go towards a gallery, you know, owning land in a trust, you know, not in doing it in the individual. And I feel like economics wasn't really taught to us in school or anything like that for a reason, you know, about insurance, trust, not putting things in your individual name, because that's, I'll get into that. But that's a lot of government things. So when we actually learn about ownership, then we could take our rights back, you know, instead of pointing a finger at the being victims, you know what I mean? We should be worthy, you know, of our creations and actually understand law. You know, I self master, you know, I'm a master. So yeah, just getting more educated, you know, because we're not going to get educated from the oppressor. You know, we have to educate ourselves, you know thyself. That was the Egyptian, you know, method, you know. So we have to know ourselves and able to, what we are the table, like Kanye said. Like he is the table. Like he is the table. What are you bringing to the table? So be more wise with your decisions and who you're working with. And I feel like anyone that wants to support is realizing we don't want the eggs. We want the chicken, you know. We want the whole, we want to feed ourselves, you know, so.
Excellent. Again, I grew up on the East Coast where art communities were a regular thing. I did not understand when I moved to Washington State, having come from California, that there weren't institutions that supported art. There weren't artists in residencies, there weren't art collectives, there weren't places where you could buy art that were engineered and generated by people of color. I was really shocked because, you know, they said, well, Seattle is sort of the Mecca, you need to go there. And I didn't want to go to Seattle. I just thought wherever I was, there was going to be a community of artists. And it took all of those years before I met Mama T. But as I said, I met Aisha first. And to me, she was the guiding light. I was like, oh my God, I met one person who looks like me in this environment. And today I feel very differently because there is a growing community. I am graced by not just someone who looks like me, but other artists in this community who are gracious, who give to me, who support me, who really have centered me in this environment in a way that I hadn't experienced before. And I'm grateful. I am so grateful that I have met people here who don't look at me in a limited way, but who see me as a professional artist, which is what I've always been. You know, when you sell in other instances, that makes you feel professional. I've been very fortunate that I've had my work sell, that I have been in places where people buy the work and they are encouraging you to do more. And I just want that here, because that's where I live now. You know, I mean, I have repeat buyers, but they're from Boston, or they're from New York, or they're from California. I want them to be from Washington State. I want them to be from Olympia. You know, that's really what I want, because this is the community I live and work in. and I call home now. So we're here, and you're there. It's time.
I also want to add that in this group, us coming together, there was an unspoken respect and sacredness between us that was so refreshing and so wonderful to work in. It actually opened doors because you didn't have to spend your energy being on guard in one way or the other. So we were all so open with each other, and there were things that we so understood that it was really, really beautiful to experience.
Could I take a minute to, I want to thank Sean too, because getting this community to acknowledge your being in it was like pulling teeth from a snake. It was hard, they didn't see you. They weren't trying to see you. These beautiful, beautiful people, you know, and Sean made it possible for me to continue my vision. And so I just want to thank you for that.
And then I just wanted to add in really quickly in terms of like building the vision and supporting Black artists. One, I've only been in Seattle for a little under 3 years. And it took me a year to find someone who could cut my hair. It's funny, but if you saw me, it wasn't. I promise you. But I had to learn how to tap into the culture here. And what was funny is I finally found someone who could cut my hair. I ran into other Black people, and I was just like, where are all of us? I was like, I see all the Black Lives Matter, but like, I'm the only Black life in that area. And they're like, that's kind of the running joke. It's, you see the signs, but you don't see us there. And really it comes to, in terms of vision building, it's like, if you want to see our art, you gotta buy our art. If you want to see our art, you've got to promote us on social media. And so it kind of takes it from that, hey, we have the sign versus, hey, we have the people here and we're actually invested and a part of it. I think there's this thing called the Seattle Freeze. And the other key to seeing more Black art is you got to thaw the freeze. You know, you got to say hello, you got to network, you got to talk. Because I'll tell you what, when I walk down the street and I don't feel like I fit in that place, I'm not going there a second time. That's just kind of what I've learned with life. And so I will say that, just network, make us a part of the space, thaw the freeze, you know, be friends. Yeah.
And I'll just say one more little thing on top of that. It's easy in a space like this to become tokenized. Like, oh, we got our one Black person, so we're good. That's just not real. So, yeah. And like, we're not like the salt and pepper, you know? We're not like the flavor. Sorry. I'm just like, we're actually just like real people with all the things, you know? And so I just want to say that, yeah, we're not like the flavor that we're going to add to the salad because we want it to taste better. Like, no.
Yeah, we're not a monolith. So I like to, as an educator, I'm always interested in the mentor-mentee relationship, right? And what I've learned tonight is Mama T is the epitome of a lifelong learner. And so for the other mentors, what is the one thing that you could say that you have gained from your mentee that you will move forward into the future? I've heard a lot about this futuristic view. What is this one thing that you as the mentor can take from your mentee?
Oh, okay. Excellent question. Thank you. For me, there's a power in hope. And what I gained from the process of watching Kari go through his ups and downs without giving up is something that I gained as well, because we are not immune from those dark nights of the soul when you're in the studio and nothing's coming. And I have to make this happen because I have to eat, I have to buy, I have to sell. You know, I have to buy supplies so I can sell and make a living. And with Kari, regardless of what came his way, he was committed to keeping it going, keep on trucking, as they would say when I was his age. And I know that when I see that in him and so many of my other young charges over the years, it's kept me energized and with the possibility that every step is going to lead to the next one. And that's what I live on. It's the hope and the vision that there is another day.
For me, it was, it made me take my mind off of myself, which is stressful anyway, and put it on a younger person and give to this person wholeheartedly, not just about the painting or about the exhibition, but about life in general, or almost like an elder sister or mother. She's much younger than me. So it was giving to her in this way that without altering her in any way, just showing her where she was great. Look at that. This is, oh, look at you. This is, so it elevated her, and it was, I felt it was just my contribution. I so enjoyed it. And when I was going to Germany, she just prodded me and said, don't forget to go to the museums and see all the art that was stolen from us from Africa. I was like, oh, God, this little girl just knows so much. So it was really, you know, a two-way street. Very wonderful.
I love that question so much. Thank you. I think for me, Deja and I are both pretty strong introverts, and I tend to create in a vacuum a lot of times, and it's a very personal process, and you can read my artist statement and you'll hear all about it. But we really were honest with one another about self-doubt as artists, about what we're up against as Black women, and it was very vulnerable and really added so much to my process and to my work. I felt like I learned so much, and so for me, I'm always kind of, it's a push and pull between collaboration and isolation, and I think that's just who I am. But this process taught me a lot about opening up and connecting and how important that is to the work and to the sense of community. I mean, it's like, that's what the work is. And for some people, maybe it's a little bit easier because they're not as introverted or whatever. They're not as insular in their process. But I think the lesson for me is that if I reach out a little bit more, then I gain so much more. And just working with another Black woman and seeing myself, and I think we were both doing that thing, because there's not that many of us, right? So around. And so that was really special as well. I felt like I didn't have to explain myself, over-explain myself, or worry too much.
Well, I think I gained a friend. And I haven't been teaching very much since I stopped working at Evergreen. And so it was nice to be in a sort of relationship where I could exert my my art thought, I think. I don't really do that very often now, so it was nice to do that, but in a way that was like about friendship and about mentorship in a two-way mentorship street. And I got to be with this wonderful person who's done so many things. She kept telling me about more things. She's more boards was on. I'm like, what? And you were on that board? What? It just kept like, there was always just more and more that I was learning, that I still am learning. And so, yeah, I think friendship and mentorship as a two-way is what I got.
Thank you for the question again. For me, it's kind of surreal for me because I knew Kyle's father before Kyle was born, and I knew his mother. And so for me, it was one of these, maybe, I don't know if serendipitous or seren something is the right word, but it was magical that we find ourselves here in the Northwest. And I feel like my model for what we did in this process of basically sharing recipes is what I see modeled from Mama T, is she's sharing recipes with us with how to operate in a community. Not recipes necessarily for food, but recipes for building relationships, keeping relationships, and maintaining relationships. And that's a lot of what this is I never could have seen this happening where and your father would be so proud. He would be so proud, you know? Yeah, yeah. So that's what it was.
I'd like to add one more thing about the mentors. We have mentored each other. Every show that we've been in collectively is a learning experience. I learn from what I see her doing. She learns from what she's doing. I've certainly learned from Aisha and Mama T, and my brother over here, he's knocked my socks off many times. And we've had the dialogue. I'm known for, over speaking about these things because I'm very excited that I have the wisdom to see what I'm looking at, and I know how to say that. And my choice of always talking to all of you is this is how you mentor me. I tend to really love talking about art with people who look and sound like me, and I love that. I'm honored, completely honored. And even though I've done a lot of traveling around, there's nothing better than coming home. And you're home. You're home. So thank you.
Good evening. First of all, thank you for being here tonight. I am really happy that I could make it and actually just be in the room, I couldn't help but think, we're talking about art and love and Black love, and then, there were topics of economics that came up, right? There were topics of diversity where in community you don't always see someone that looks like you. And I think there's probably several people in this room who've experienced that on different levels. So when I think about art, for me personally, I think about a freeing experience. But what I'm curious about is when you're in the community that we're in and you don't see or you don't necessarily see, you have a lack of diversity that you would hope wouldn't be that way. How do you, if ever, I don't know if you ever get in your own head or whatever the case may be, but how do you free yourself from, you want to, I guess, increase the opportunities for others and the economics and all of that stuff, but how do you unburden yourself to really just be when you're creating? What type of tool or exercise, if any, do you go through so that when you're creating, you're not thinking about all of these other constructs to just do? I don't know if, what your process is, but I couldn't help but think about that.
That's a good question. Yes. Could I go first? Awesome. No, you please. Okay. So For me personally, especially when I was younger, like being in predominantly white schools is really hard. Like trying to figure out where I fit as like a young black person who's like outspoken and who's gonna stand up for myself and for my people, and like for other marginalized groups of people, regardless of what people have to say about it. But how do I think about myself, right? So, I mean, obviously self-love and like self-discovery is like an ongoing thing, and it's not linear because you're always growing and figuring out new things about yourself regardless of how old you are. So for me, like a lot of people say things about self-care, but I need community care. So like being around like my aunties, my mom, or like just people that I look up to, and like also recognizing within myself is that I'm not the stereotype that they think I am. And I'm not meant to be what other people think I'm supposed to be. I'm meant to be who I know I am. And like, regardless, like you need to be yourself. I mean, obviously, I'm dressed very brightly right now. So, I mean, obviously that takes confidence. So, like, just be yourself and be unapologetic. And like where my art is where I release my frustrations and like release my ideas of what I think the world should be and the way it eventually will be, because we're manifesting. So, yeah.
Beautiful.
All right, I'll go. Melanin dominant is the majority of the world. Olympia is just a little place around the whole map. So when you actually educate yourself and you know that, and you know we always been here, you know that we're ancient, and there has been genocide, you know, on this land. So when you realize your ancestors built America, you know, you kind of relieve that all that trauma, because you realize how much we done, you know. So that kind of brings me and like inspires me to continue to go, you know, because I'm not here to just be in hurt or in this low vibration all my life, trying to think about all the trauma. Like America tried to put that picture of like slavery, but they don't tell you about George Washington Carver. You know, they don't tell you about Henrietta Lacks. They don't tell you about the black woman that made the telephone. They don't tell you about who made, filament. They don't tell you all these black inventors in school, especially Western public schools. They just tell you about some slavery, and then you're the only black kid in the class, and then you just like, what? Like, you feeling all this weird energy, and then you feel so, it's a whole program. But that's not who we are. We're kings and queens. So even as a black or melanin dominant man, indigenous man, and not really seeing a lot of other indigenous men around me, that's a reason too, because a lot of indigenous men or black men are in prison. And that's not because they're bad people. Not all of them are bad people. It's because it's designed from the system so we don't see other role models, you know. So when you educate yourself and you see the enemy or you see this whole system that's going on, it empowers you to be a warrior, you know. Empowers you to keep pushing that message and don't even fold, because the reason why they so about us, you know, so worried about us, what we're doing, is for a reason, you know, because they don't want to see us rise, or some type of jealousy or something going on within them. But when we identify with their problems, and that's when we lose. But we identify with our own journey. We love ourselves, you know, we heal ourselves, we heal our community, we love our brothers and sisters. Then that's when we win. You know, we worry about our vision. I feel like the new currency is attention. And before, the attention was on white supremacy. Now it's switching, and that's why things are shifting, right? There's a major shift because we're rising up. We're seeing way more black businesses, You've seen way more black community online. Online, now it's easy for me to contact or talk to people in Africa, in South America, in Asia. I have so many friends around the world, and it's like we're building. Oh yeah, we're gonna do this, we're gonna do that. Now there's no stopping. Before it's like an email or a letter. Now you can't stop me. You can't stop the world now. We know so much. So now we're just limitless.
Beautiful.
Okay. I have another thing to add on to what you were saying. I do believe that we should be able to love each other unconditionally, but I also recognize that, like, due to generational trauma, a lot of things get perpetuated again, and then there's more trauma onto, like, newer generations. And we also have to hold our people accountable. That's another thing that needs to happen. Because if you just like, oh, we love them, then you sweep it under the rug, it's not gonna fix the problem. And the next thing you know, there's just gonna be a big old dust bunny, and it's really noticeable, and you're not gonna be able to ignore it. So that was a really weird analogy. Anyway, but I hope you get my point. And also, like, loving yourself and learning from different cultures and, like, seeing the intersections between all these people. Because, I mean, my mom taught me about Pan-Africanism, and I kind of grew up with that, and I didn't realize that everybody else didn't have that lens when I was younger. And then as I get older, I'm like, oh, okay, there's so many different connections, and a lot of people don't recognize them. And, like, loving yourself, recognizing and acknowledging the genocide and generational trauma that is baked into our DNA because we were just trying to survive. We have to get past that point. It's not just about survival anymore. We want to thrive, we want to enjoy our lives instead of just trying to get by every single day without dying or, like, just trying to, like, go under the radar. We should be able to be vibrant, bold, eccentric. Like, there's no blueprint or Rosetta Stone for, like, what a black person's supposed to look like or who they're supposed to be or their experiences. So, like, by being bold and by expressing ourselves in whatever way we do, I mean, like, look at all of our art. It's so different, but it's so similar at the same time, you know? Like, we should be able to celebrate and honor that in all spaces.
Oh. I would really like to say that I look forward to a time when there's no we and they, that we are all one people and we see ourselves as all one people. And we're all colored girls because one's blue, one's green, one's purple, one's white, brown, and black. And I look forward to that time. But in the meantime, I think this is very useful.
I think for me, finding a place of peace in this environment has had a huge to do with combining all of my identities all into one to be who I am, not to conform to a monolith or the identities that are forced upon me. And I thank my parents for that. You know, my mom and my dad, because they taught me to rebel as a young kid. My dad taught me to rebel. My mom taught me how to be smart about it.
How to be smart about rebelling.
And my mom taught me how to argue. So she's watching, so she knows. But it really helped me because I moved out here. I'm 1,000 miles away from family. Well, it was, and then I found out he's out here too. But and I was in a work environment where I was the only black person there. And so I had to learn how to reject the identities they forced upon myself. I was the only black and openly queer person at my work environment. And so I had to learn to reject all of their opinions about me and learn how to flourish and make that home. And I did that by finding friends and allies in that space. And it took my faith, it took my life experiences, it took me just having a weekend to go back home and just, hide out. And I told my mom, I went back, I was like, look, I just need to lay on the couch for a couple of days. Like, I'm happy to see you. You don't have to change your life. I just need to rest here and then come back. And now that I'm back, I'm learning how to find spaces where I can claim as my home. I don't have a magical how to do it. I just know it's just chipping away at it day by day. But here, at least when I'm in Seattle, I've learned to find people to add to my tribe. And it's been trial and error. There have been people who I've added, and I'm like, I gotta remove you. You're not bringing in the right energy. Yeah, I don't know. I wish I had something a little bit more profound than that, but I will throw in though, my escape is reading books. I hate to say it, like I'm getting my doctorate degree right now, and I'm reading a lot of Black authors to learn how to better go about my dissertation. And I just read Bell Hooks, and if you haven't read it, read, because that opened my eye to so many things. Because Bell Hooks, and it was teaching to transgress, and it felt like a lot of the things that my great aunt taught me. She helped integrate the schools back in the day, and then it was a lot of what my mom and my dad taught me, all in this author, and just bringing it to a real point. So I'd say that, and then just read Black authors, because I'm studying for data analysis, but I'll tell you what, our life experiences, the things that are being built out right now, really change even the way the tech's going, because it'll make it more of a Black welcoming place, because that's one of the big struggles right now is Black in tech. There's not a lot of representation. And now that I'm working in tech, I'm starting to learn to reach out, network that way as well. Sorry, I'm kind of rambling at this point. I'm in, but yeah.
I'm so proud of Kyle.
I'll add one thing about the burden question, and I really love that question also. It's and I think that how I am using art is as a way to unburden myself, and it's really interesting to think about. But you do come to it with burdens, and so what do you do then? And so I throughout this process, I did a lot of. We talked about music in one of our artist talks that we did, and that was beautiful. And I think one of my theme songs for this show was Afro Blue, if you know that song. And there's a really great version, a newer version by Robert Glasper and Erykah Badu singing the vocals, and it's Dream of the Land my soul is from. I hear the drums, or I hear the hands beat on the drums, and it's just this very beautiful. It always puts me in a kind of Pan-African state, and where I can feel the connections of my ancestors. And so I think that's one way, is to drop down and tap into interconnectedness and my ancestral lineage. And also just my work is really patterned, and I'm using the patterning as a meditation. And so that is, I think, unburdening me as well. Being able to, it's a rhythmic process. So thanks for the question.
Yeah, I would echo that. Like a lot of my process is very repetitive. I like this piece, for example. I had to cut it into maybe 40 pieces to hollow it all out, and that just takes a lot of time. So there's a lot of repetition, and I listen to, I read a lot of books. I listen to them, though. I listen to a lot of books. And so that's kind of, it is like meditation and sort of like other world. Like I read a lot of future-oriented Afrofuturism books, and just like futures, what, even if it's not great, like what are the survival tools? Like what can I learn from these authors? And I'm like always in a different, I have like a lot of other worlds that I live in, and also in this like repetitive kind of process part of the work that provides a lot of like soothing and just I think meditating is like doesn't feel right to me, because I feel like it's not like I'm like thinking of nothing or something like that, like these ideas of what meditation is, but sort of like in being embodied, I think, is part of that, like the feeling of the clay and like, yeah.
For my process, okay, my process, I like silence because I actually hear what the painting is telling me. I hear it. I don't only see it, I hear it. So I like silence, and I like my own company and quiet. And in that space, there's just my own world. So whatever comes to the surface is never questioned. There is no outside. There's only inside that I'm bringing out. So I don't think of anyone. The only thoughts that may come up would be self-doubt. Did you do that right? Or, you know. But there's no outside, so there's no one to consider. And I actually don't even think about ancestors or futuristic or anything. I'm kind of in a daze, in a zone in my head, in my heart. I paint with my left hand in my pocket. It grounds me every time. And yeah, I sometimes, I'm painting one thing and I get stuck, and I'll go to bed and I'll wake up at 2 in the morning and like, you've got to put orange in that corner. So I get up and I go and I put orange in that corner, and I have a constant conversation with that piece when I'm driving my car, I'm going anywhere. I sometimes seem very absent-minded, but I'm really still in that painting. So it's a really joyous thing for me.
Beautiful. I have this duality going on as I work, as I live, as I breathe. I am who I am visibly, but I'm also a human. I'm a global citizen. I believe in planet Earth as my home. And so I stratify those two realities. And like you, if you've lived outside of America, you see a very different world. And if you are, I grew up reading books, and books takes you away from the construct, whether it's black books, you know, my family had the, you know, classic black books that we all grew up with, so we had that history as very young people. But, you know, when I started reading more widely, and then I met people who wrote books. You know, my main mentor, I would say, was James Baldwin, whom I knew personally. And one of the things he impressed upon me is, you know, his famous saying that if you live in America, you have, you know, it's mental illness is part of your construct, because the duality of, you know, being a person and not being a person at the same time. Whereas for me, the duality was being a person of color and a human being. And to me, I constantly in my work marrying those things together. So even though I want to deal with social justice in my work, I also want to deal with the wider aspect. So I have the microcosm of me looking through the lens of being a little black girl from Harlem, as well as being this magnificent specimen of humanness that requires me to pull the lens out so that I'm larger than life. Not me, but the vision is always larger than life. And today I had a revelation about the work that I did, you know, the painting that I did, Deliverance. Can you put that up for a minute? The Deliverance was in response to Black Lives Matter, and in it there was this idea that you had black people through the diaspora being brought through the veil and being helped by the helpers. You know, Fred Rogers' mother said, don't look at the destruction, look at the helpers. And in this piece, I realized today that on one level, it's like black people being helped by other black people. And today, as I was saying to Kari, I had the realization of the pullout. The pullout was that human beings are helping each other. You know, when I think of Ukraine And when they're saying, help us, you know, so here is the bottom, the chasm between the carnage that's befalling them right now, and yet there are people helping them up, you know, pulling them up. And so when I do my work, as I look at it through the lens of a woman, a black woman, however, but I'm also a sentient being. I'm a soul sister within the realm of great beings. I'm in great company here. Every one of us is that larger than life. We're not just the, you know, the dots on the page. We're really all of that and a bag of chips, so to speak, you know. And so I revel in that understanding. And so when Kari and I were talking, he hit me one more time, you know. My little mentee gave me an understanding, and I said, oh my God, and because I was thinking of how I had helped him. And we were talking before we came, and I said, oh my God, I just had this revelation. It's, you know, the microcosm. This is the microcosm, but if you pull it out, the macrocosm is far more powerful if I don't leave it and make it small about me. I make it about us, and that's the duality.
All right, well, wow. This was a big conversation. This is more than what I anticipated, and but also, you know, not expected. I mean, you got unexpected. You all are just have so much going on in your work, and bring so much to the gallery and to each other. So that's awesome. So thank you very much. It's been amazing. So if you all, you know, several times there were other talks and other exhibitions referenced. I'm just going to plug our gallery online. Many of those talks are recorded. If you just kind of poke around into the individual portfolios, you can watch some of these talks that happened from previous exhibitions. They're really awesome. And I'm just going to say thanks to all of you for coming out, and as always, the conversation extends beyond critique. So the gallery's open. I'll leave it open for a little while longer so everyone can cruise the gallery space and have conversation. So good night, and thank you so much.
I'm so glad you came. When are you leaving? Monday. Oh. Oh, wait, I want to take a picture.
Okay.
I want to take a picture. Hey, Sean, can you leave it up so I can take a picture? I want to take a picture of the big.
You want to take a picture of the big one?
I've never seen big. We have a group picture? Yeah. You can be in.
Wait a minute. Yeah, Renee, you get in it, and I'm gonna take a picture. I was gonna put Mama T's image up there. I'm gonna put this one up here.